It's like when you think you've gotten to as many times as you should forgive somebody, then do it that many times that. That's basically what his answer was to Peter, because if Peter said, well, how many times? Up to 7, and Jesus like 7 times 7. But if Peter had said, how many times? 100, he just said, how about 100 times 100?
Yeah.
Until you get tired of asking me. What about 200? 200 times 200.
It's like
I knew he was going to say that.
It's like the reverse of Abraham's, bartering with God for the souls of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, except the number keeps getting bigger, and Peter's like, I better quit. I'm going to quit asking now. It's getting the numbers are too big. Welcome to Biblocus, where the Bible intersects with your life. I'm Timothy.
And I'm Caleb.
And you're listening to Bible Discussions, the forum where we explore biblical topics that are relevant to your life. Today we are continuing our series on the 30 sayings of the wise from the book of Proverbs. And in this episode, we're going to discuss saying number 27, the righteous rise again. So let's go ahead and read that.
Proverbs 24:15-16. Do not lurk like a thief near the house of the righteous. Do not plunder their dwelling place. For though the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again. But the wicked stumble when calamity strikes.
So the first half of this sounds pretty familiar, Caleb. We've been talking about, don't envy wicked people. Don't go into scheming with them.
Yeah, don't plot evil.
Yeah. Our most popular episode ever, by the way. Thank you, everybody. But this time it's a little bit different because it actually talks about who the victim of the crime is. It's the righteous.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it's more specific because this one's not just focusing on what the perpetrator's doing. And that second half really makes it stand out, I think. Verse 16, where it says, for the righteous fall 7 times, they rise again, but the wicked stumble when calamity strikes. That's what we're going to focus on more here.
Yeah,
so we don't just repeat ourselves.
If you just listen to it, it would make you want to be a righteous person.
Maybe we should repeat it since that was our most popular video.
Oh, let's go back and repeat that one and just see if it takes off again.
Yeah.
So it's kind of similar to the beginning of it is similar and to the ones we've done on Psalm 1, and then Psalm 37 and Psalm 73. They all talk about seeing wicked people doing the wrong thing and getting away with it, or falling in the league with them, or what happens to the wicked versus the righteous.
It rings all of those bells. I think it's just this theme comes up a lot, or these themes come up a lot in the sayings, and they're present in all of those psalms. So we've talked a lot about those. I think we've referenced each of those psalms multiple times just in this series alone. Not to mention the fact that we studied 2 of them, in a whole video just to themselves. But so we're not going to go directly to those. But if you haven't seen those studies or haven't read those recently, Psalm 1 talks about a righteous man being like a tree planted by water, how he prospers, and it goes on, and it's using that Hebrew poetry to set up this expectation, where it lays out the things that he does, and then it turns to the wicked, and it breaks that pattern of all these multiple things. It just says that the wicked are like chaff that's blown away. And that's a lot like this one, the righteous keep rising again and the wicked stumble.
That one's called Blessed. If you're looking up the thumbnails, I can't remember the episode number. It's Psalm 1, but it's Blessed. And then the Psalm 73 episode that we did is 3 episodes after that. And Draw Near to God. I think it's called Draw Near to God.
Yeah, and that one talks about, it opens up where he says, surely the Lord is good to Israel, right? To those who are pure in heart. But I had almost stumbled, and he goes on to talk about seeing how wicked people seem to have it great in this life. All these fat kings and, greedy, corrupt businessmen or whatever who seem to be living the good life. And then he sees righteous people suffering, and he wants to give up. He wants to despair until he enters the Lord's tabernacle,
right.
and then he realizes their fate. And again, it's the same thing. Like, they're going to, they might feel like they're living high today, but for tomorrow and all of eternity, like they're just gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And then Psalm 37, we just covered a few weeks ago in our, and don't envy the wicked, I think.
Yeah. And that one talks about that. It's kind of the same thing.
Don't envy the wicked.
Yeah, it says the opening words are "Do not fret because of those who are evil,"
Yeah,
or
yeah.
be envious of those who do wrong.
Right.
And then it kind of talks about the same thing, that the righteous, God prospers the righteous, but the wicked are like grass that fade away quickly, or flowers that bloom once and then fade away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Biblocus has wickedness covered in all different ways. Today we're going to look at righteousness.
Yeah, it'll be turning a new page for us.
And to do that, we want to look at Psalm 34. So Psalm 34, is two sections. We're not reading the whole psalm, and I'll just read them consecutively. But it's Psalm 34 verses 1 through 7, and verses 15 through 22. I will extol the Lord at all times. His praise will always be on my lips. I will glory in the Lord. Let the afflicted hear and rejoice. Glorify the Lord with me. Let us exalt his name together. I sought the Lord, and he answered me. He delivered me from all my fears. Those who look to him are radiant. Their faces are never covered with shame. This poor man called, and the Lord heard him. He saved him out of all his troubles. The angel of the Lord encamps around those who fear him, and he delivers them. And then jumping to verse 15, the eyes of the Lord are on the righteous, and his ears are attentive to their cry. But the face of the Lord is against those who do evil, to blot out their name from the earth. The righteous cry out, and the Lord hears them. He delivers them from all their troubles. The Lord is close to the brokenhearted and saves those who are crushed in spirit. The righteous person may have many troubles, but the Lord delivers him from them all. He protects all his bones. Not one of them will be broken. Evil will slay the wicked. The foes of the righteous will be condemned. The Lord will rescue his servants. No one who takes refuge in him will be condemned.
So that was fairly long, and we even broke it up, to get some extra verses out of the way. But I thought it was interesting. 3 times in that passage, it says specifically that the righteous will have trouble, but it also immediately said that God would deliver them from it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's, that reminds me of my favorite verse, right? Which we've talked about a lot because it's my favorite. John 16:33, right? Where Jesus tells his apostles, I've told you these things that in me you may have peace. In this world you will have trouble, but take heart, for I've overcome the world. And it's exactly like that. It's the promise. We've talked about this a lot. It's not like a health and wealth gospel, like the Jeremiah verse that we kind of pick on, even though it's great. I know the plans I have for you, plans to prosper you, which is given in the context of I'm sending you into exile and destroying your entire land.
Yeah.
But that's going to prosper you. You just don't see it yet. Just as Christ knows going to the cross is going to prosper him and then his followers and the church. It's counterintuitive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So as the official Biblocus historian, I think you did some searching around to see if the church fathers had ever talked about this.
I did. I found one from St. Jerome who translated the Latin Vulgate Bible as the church was kind of moving from Greek to Latin. And he wrote a letter to a guy named Rusticus, which I feel like that's a 10 out of 10 name.
Yeah.
It's nobody. I didn't go to school with anybody named that. Too many nicknames and jokes you can come up with, I think. So Jerome is talking about our saying, Proverbs 24, verse 16. He says, a just man, we read, falleth 7 times and riseth up again. If he falls, how is he just? And if he is just, how does he fall? The answer is that a sinner does not lose the name of just if he always repents of his sins and rises again. If a sinner repents, his sins are forgiven him not only till 7 times, but till 77 times. And so that's a great connection there, right? And I was noticing, there's like this. It says this 3 times, or it says this 3 times, and we know 3 is kind of a symbolic number. 7 is also a symbolic number, and Jerome makes that connection. And we just quoted this in a recent episode, but this is right before Jesus tells that parable of the unforgiving servant. So we won't read the whole thing, but this is from Matthew 18:21 through 22. Then Peter came to Jesus and asked, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? Jesus answered, I tell you, not 7 times, but 77 times. So,
Yeah.
I mean, just think about it's like, what did Peter have, like a notebook? He's like, all right, John, that's number 4, and Andrew is on like 57 because that's his actual brother. He's probably
in
been at odds with him.
In another passage, a parallel passage, it says how many times in a day.
Yeah,
and so
I think that's part of what Jesus is saying. Like, what does Paul tell us in 1 Corinthians 13, the famous passage about love? Love keeps no record of right and wrongs. So what are you tallying up over here? How many times somebody's had to be forgiven?
Obviously, that was Christ's point. Was I don't think you can count that high, Peter.
To 77.
But why are you even trying?
Yeah.
But I liked the thing from Saint Jerome. It was kind of like repentance is like resurrection.
Yeah.
In your daily life, if you just practice it, if you repent, God will forgive you over and over again. But repentance implies a sincerity of heart, right? So it's not just like, whoops, I sinned again.
Yeah,
did it again.
Yeah, it's not
like a popular
it's
song.
Not an excuse to, oh brother, an excuse to keep sinning, to run up the tab just because God's paying.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. What's the most expensive thing on the menu? That's what I'm doing today. I mean, that's what I'm getting for lunch.
Yeah. Yeah. So. It's it reminds me of I didn't think about this before now, but there's a famous Martin Luther quote, which out of context sounds horrible, and so some people like to pick on him for it. But he's writing to someone who's dealing with a lot of guilt for something. They've already repented, they've confessed, and they've been forgiven, but they still feel guilty about it. And he says, sin boldly, right? That's the translation in English anyway. Sin boldly, because Christ's grace is bolder. But, it sounds great out of context. Be like, oh, what a great moral teacher. Sin boldly. But that's the idea, is like, there's not he actually says in that letter, hypothetically, he's like, I could commit adultery 1,000 times a day, and God's capable of forgiving it. It's not advice. It's just saying, there's not something you could do that God couldn't forgive.
Yeah. You might want to go back and review our 10 Commandments series. Yeah.
Yeah, the one where we quoted Luther.
I think, yeah. I think, though, the point is if you live boldly, you're going to make mistakes.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like,
it's not, you don't do them willfully, but like
it's kind of like the saying, like, better to ask forgiveness than permission, right? It's like, well, I'm just not going to do anything. I got to take the risk, It's like, well, at least try and do something, try and accomplish something, and if you mess up, then then
don't
you
mess
deal
up
with it.
on purpose. But if you're struggling to do something at the peak of your ability and it gets out of hand and you lose control of it, I mean that's different than doing something on purpose.
Yeah. So back to the what Jesus told Peter there, right? We were talking kind of about symbolic numbers, 3 and 7. 7 symbolizes completion. It's usually drawn from the fact that in the creation account it takes 7 days. So that's like everything. Everything is wrapped up in 7. So saying 77 or 70 times 7, depending on the gospel, it's like completion. Do it completely and then do it again,
Right.
And just don't stop doing it, basically.
Yeah, I mean it's like another way of thinking of it is as exponentially.
Yeah.
It's like it's exponential. 7 times 7 times 7 times 7. It's like
infinity.
Yeah. It's like when you think you've gotten to as many times as you should forgive somebody, then do it that many times that. That's basically what his answer was to Peter, because if Peter said, well, how many times? Up to 7, and Jesus like 7 times 7. But if Peter had said, how many times? 100, he just said, how about 100 times 100?
Yeah.
Until you get tired of asking me. What about 200? 200 times 200.
It's like
I knew he was going to say that.
It's like the reverse of Abraham's bartering with God for the souls of Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yeah, except the number keeps getting bigger, and Peter's like, I better quit. I'm going to quit asking now. The numbers are too big.
So this goes back to the saying, right? Why can the righteous fall and still rise again? Because God grants them mercy. Well, why does he grant them mercy and not the wicked? Probably because they're the only ones asking.
Yeah, well, the wicked people are running away, hiding from
the wicked
them.
are, if they do something wrong, like it says, they stumble. It's just like everything was on them. They had no support from God. They don't want or seek support from God. So, it's inevitable. Like nobody's perfect. Like we're all going to screw up, or just things that you have no control over are going to come and just, blindside you. And for an ungodly person, that's like world shattering. And for a righteous person, if you're paying attention, you're reading, Jesus warning the disciples, you're going to have trouble in this world. This Psalm 34 saying over and over again, God delivers the righteous out of trouble, not he preserves them totally from it. And you would not be shocked. You would say that's how the world works.
Yeah, and the pure good and true things of life are always the beautiful things. They appear beautiful to people. And so you noticed something in this psalm that talks to you how the beauty of God's, mercy and righteousness can be appealing to everybody.
Yeah,
right?
That's right. In the second verse of the Psalm 34:2, it says, "I will glory in the Lord. Let the afflicted hear and rejoice." That struck me as such a fascinating concept, right? Such the application for praise there is to comfort the afflicted, the struggling, the weary and the sorrowful,
Yeah.
Like I don't know how often we think about it like that. I think most people tend to think if you're making a list of why you should go to church or why you should worship, you're thinking like because God is worthy of it and because it's going to teach me something, like the great hymns and the Psalms and such. There's a lot that's happening to you when you're meditating on those things. But it's actually dealing with suffering here. Is pointing out that that's another use of it. And I was listening to a podcast the other day. Some pastors were talking about hymn writing and stuff, and they were like, "Why doesn't it feel like we seem to be capable of writing these great hymns, that we have from throughout the centuries?" And they were speaking in a Lutheran context, which, if you know anything about that history, there you have the 30 Years' War that basically breaks out because of Protestant and Catholic differences. That's how it starts, and it ends up in some places killing like a third of the population in Germany, which is where the Lutheran Church was kind of started, right? So some of these hymns, some of the great hymn writers of in the Lutheran hymnal lived through that intense suffering, watching your whole neighborhood get burned and ravaged, and then wrote great hymns out of it. And I think he was saying, we're living in too cushy of a time. That's why we can't write. We don't know suffering well enough to write hymns that can comfort the suffering. That's the problem.
Well, we also don't need comfort enough because our circumstances are so good that we're looking for it, and we don't want to look for it from other people. I mean, I think there's a small-mindedness about man that you see all the way back to the Cain and Abel story, right? When Abel does something beautiful for God, worshipful toward God, and is accepted for it, and Cain's like, "Why are you accepting that? Why don't you accept mine?"
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you write a great hymn and you present it to people and they go, "Well, it's pretty good. I mean, the second verse is a little weak. I don't know. We might use it one Sunday, but I don't think it'll be like one we use.
It's not going to be in a hymnal 1,000 years from now."
Yeah. I mean, we don't go, "Wow, thanks for writing that. I mean, that took a long time. Good job. Well, let's sing it." And we instead we say why it's not great.
Yeah.
We're just like Cain. And in a lot of ways, this reminded me of the Cain and Abel story here. That idea of the afflicted people hearing the praise and being comforted by it. Cain could have accepted that. He could have seen, wow, I mean, Abel praised God and he was rewarded for it, and there's something beautiful about it. He admired it because he wanted it for himself.
Yeah.
But that instead,
he knew there was something good.
Yeah, instead of admiring it in a way that was positive and made his life better, he like envied it and killed his brother.
And Psalm 73, which we brought up earlier, right? I think that's Asaph. Is that?
Yes,
yeah.
Psalm Asaph.
So where does Asaph find his comfort? When he's dealing with these things, he sees wicked people seeming to do well, righteous people who seem to be suffering. Where does he find his comfort? When he goes to the temple, when he goes to God's house, which it would always be filled with praise. So that apparently that worked for him.
Well, it's interesting to think about what it must have been like to visit the temple in antiquity, because now we have amplified music. Like I have my monitors in so I can hear Biblocus better. But we have people have earbuds in all the time. They're listening to music. They're listening to podcasts.
Subwoofers in the car,
yeah. You have you can surround yourself with incredible sounding music all the time.
Yeah.
But back then it was like, well, the only time I'll ever experience that would be in this setting. So there'd have been something remarkable about it.
I think so. I think as far as comforting someone with praise, right? I think if you talk to any pastor who's worth his salt, who's been at a deathbed with somebody, they're going to be reading Psalms and singing hymns,
and praying.
And praying with I think there's an overlap. It's kind of the same thing.
They are.
With the dying person or with their family, and that's going to be what brings the most peace. I've heard pastors talk about that. That seems to be ubiquitous. So, this reminded me a while ago. We had a study where we were talking about anger, and I found kind of a similar idea from a church father named Evagrius, where he said that singing of psalms calms harsh anger. And if you remember that, I was saying, how come therapists don't ever suggest that? We definitely don't want to take our hymns and the psalms for granted. It's there's a lot going on there that, and especially you don't know what someone else is dealing with, anger or with sorrow at the time. You have no idea what it'll mean to them to worship alongside you at church, for example.
Well, that might be the reason Psalms is the longest book in the Bible, because people appreciate Psalms.
Yep.
So
we see here the Psalms are applicable at all times, right? So maybe we should pray without ceasing at all times in all circumstances. Where else have we seen somebody who talks about worshiping God in all circumstances, pursuing God in all circumstances? That was our theme for Job, right? And we were going to read a quick passage from Job to remind us of that.
Yeah, in Job 19, verses 25 through 27, it says, I know that my Redeemer lives, and that in the end he will stand on the earth. And after my skin has been destroyed, yet in my flesh I will see God. I myself will see him with my own eyes, I and not another. How my heart yearns within me.
And this, if you read it in the full context, before this, he lists out all the stuff that's happened to him, his diseases and loss of his family and all his goods and his house. But then this is his hope in that, right? That even though he's being destroyed, he'll see God. And, he understands that this principle that the righteous will fall. He also knows that the fallen can be made righteous or can be made right with God again.
Yeah. Well, which we saw also in the church father that you quoted.
With Jerome?
Jerome, yeah.
He's saying, how could he fall if he's just? And, how could he be just if he's fallen?
Yeah.
It's the same question. Job's friends are all arguing with him. Well, you must just be terrible. You've done some sort of terrible sin and you won't confess it.
Yeah, when you were telling me about that, it made me think of something I didn't think of when we did the book of Job, but that maybe the question, the purpose of the book of Job is to answer a question, which is, how many shots do I get at being a righteous man? And
77.
Yeah, well, the answer in Job is you get as many tries as you need. Like Job is like, I don't understand why you guys think I'm disqualified from trying to be righteous. God doesn't feel that way. He wants, and we know that God declared Job a righteous man in the very beginning of the book. But Job is saying, I'm on a hard times, but I still get to be a righteous man. And they're like, no, you don't.
Yeah, it's almost as if Jesus got the idea for Peter.
Yeah. And pretty much, hey, the Old Testament and the New Testament have the same message.
Yeah.
What?
So this reminds me, right, knowing that the righteous will fall. This reminds me of when the Greeks come and want to talk to Jesus in the book of John. And he says, this is John chapter 12, verses 24 through 26. He says, very truly I tell you, unless a kernel of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains only a single seed. But if it dies, it produces many seeds. Anyone who loves their life will lose it, while anyone who hates their life in this world will keep it for eternal life. Whoever serves me must follow me, and where I am, my servant also will be. My Father will honor the one who serves me. And right, where who must follow him, and where are we following him to? Like, what does that imply? Because this is before his passion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
it implies suffering and a sort of falling or descent, right? So the wicked are going to seek to prosper in this life. They're going to do everything they can to avoid falling, but it's not an if, it's a when. When they fall and die, they die for good.
yeah,
But for the righteous, the path to true life is through death. Like, we're not clinging onto this life because we know it's imperfect. Like, we live in a fallen world. We have a sinful human nature. And so we're not like hedging our bets trying to keep that. We want to discard it for a better one.
yeah. I mean, people want to hold on to the things they have. It's human nature.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've used this passage training small group leaders, and when somebody starts a small group meeting in their house, and I try to teach them, you need to keep it small, because it gets too big. There's nowhere for any new people to plug into a relationship, because the number of relationships multiplies in a group. As you add one more person, it adds as many relationships as there are people in the group already. And so it just keeps growing bigger and bigger. And eventually it's too difficult for a new person to move into the group and find a way to have a relationship with everybody there. So, and I try to tell them, you have to become two groups. You have to multiply, and they don't get it. This verse, I think, helps with that tendency of us to want to hold on to what we have and not think about how other people will be served by us.
Churches need to do
sharing.
that too,
Yeah, church.
We have no use for a 5,000 person church where you can't even know the names of everybody there.
Yeah, I agree. Like, church growth doesn't mean the church that I go to is going to get 10 times bigger than it is right now. Yeah. You should multiply and plant new congregations and have many smaller ones. Mm-hmm. Especially if your church is good at being a small church. What makes you think it's going to be good at being a big church? It's like the people there know how to be a small church. So like, encourage them to start a new church that they're already good at being.
Yeah. So recognizing our brokenness, then, right? Going back to this idea, we must fall and die.
Yeah.
Recognizing that is not a sign of our defeat, right?
No, right? That's like our path to victory, right? Like, is to recognize it. Kind of like the Socratic wisdom, knowing what your weakness is.
Yeah, knowing that he knows nothing.
Yeah.
Everyone else was proud of what they did know.
Yeah. We need to know that our weakness is our strength if we are partnered with God. So
yeah. So our takeaway for this saying, our wise words takeaway, trademark pending. The righteous are not those who never fall. They are those whom God raises again.
Yeah.
So a couple things to think about here. How do others react when you fall? Right? We've all been there. And this is one of the reasons why we have that instinct to like try to conserve everything and preserve ourselves, because it doesn't feel good when you fall.
Yeah.
And a lot of other people are going to gawk and mock. But I think a more potent question is, how do you react when someone else falls?
Yeah. Yeah, because if you're used to people laughing at you and ridiculing you when you make mistakes, then the natural human reaction is to do the same thing to other people when the shoe is on the other foot, mm-hmm. right? But then you see like say a movie like Captain America, where he gets beat up all the time, but he wants to just do the right thing, mm-hmm. and stand up for other people when he sees other people being mistreated. And so that's why he's the perfect person to take the formula, because he's going to turn out to be a good, strong man.
We've talked about that movie before, I think.
Yeah.
It's really easy to pile on, when somebody else falls, and to sort of point it out and ridicule. That's basically what Job's friends ended up doing, Mm-hmm. At first they were sorry with him. They sat in silence for 7 days. They should have just kept their mouths shut.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
But
well, and the church, we always end up talking about the church at the end of our lessons.
Yeah.
And we're approaching the end here. we have got a reputation of being self-righteous
judgmental
and staring down our noses at everybody else. And that's not what we're supposed to be. We're not supposed to be modeling that.
Yeah, we're supposed to comfort or absolve, support, forgive those who have fallen. I mean, just like that Psalm 34:2, right? When Asaph went to the temple, the worship and the people there worshiping God with him comforted him.
Yeah,
you don't want to be somewhere that people go to feel even worse about. I mean, of course, God, the Spirit convicts you of your sin, right? Like that's real. So it's not just a pat on the back. That's okay. Keep committing adultery 1,000 times a day, like Luther's example earlier. You do have to repent of your sin, but ultimately, that's where you should find comfort in your soul.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. And in fact, next episode is going to be about how you treat people when they stumble and fall. So if this is interesting to you, tune into the next episode.
Yeah, it's going to lead right into it, actually, perfectly.
Yeah.
Ultimately, as the church or as Christians, like our goal is kind of to die well. Like the church is kind of killing you slowly in a good way. It wants to guide you through death into life, like we were talking about with Jesus.
But of course, to live is Christ, to die is gain. So they're both good. Like
well, that it gives us meaning to the life that we have now, where G.K. Chesterton says you should hate the world enough to want to change it, but love it enough to think it worth changing.
Yeah,
and so it's like cool. That. Like you recognize, like we were saying earlier, okay, this life is not it. Like everything's screwed up. So I need God to give me a new life. So but why doesn't He just kind of once you recognize that, all right, zap you out of existence and bring you back in the resurrection? Because there is actually a purpose here.
Yeah.
So that's like the importance of a good Christian funeral. I think is it's we're commending that person to God. It's comforting everyone who's grieving. Again, Psalm 34:2.
Yeah.
And that reminded me of a saying that you've told me about.
Yeah, I had a friend who used to say, "Never send money to a preacher who wouldn't preach your funeral." And it's like all these television preachers that are asking for money. It's like, you think they would ever come and preach your funeral? It's like,
they're always saying like, if you're sick, you just declare it and you'll be healed. And it's like, that's not and everything we've been reading here. See, there's a lot of suffering and sickness and death. So
it's about relationships.
They're in that boat of, just deny it. Just ignore the fact that you're dying. Ignore the fact that, you're fallen. Just pretend that everything's okay.
Yeah. But we're called to be in relationship with other people, and whether they're going through good times, bad times, whatever. The same as how God is in relationship with us, no matter what we're going through.
And that's the point of the church, right? That's why you should join a church, and that's like one of the ways you can judge if it's a good church is if they seem to kind of mock people or toss people aside if they fail or if they cease to be useful to the church.
Yeah.
Do they still value them because God values them?
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, he's Caleb and I'm Timothy, and thank you for joining us for another edition of Bible Discussions on Biblocus, where the Bible intersects with your life. Please consider subscribing to our channel to help support our efforts. All scripture quotations, unless otherwise indicated, are taken from the Holy Bible, New International Version, NIV, copyright by Biblica, Inc., used by permission of Zondervan, all rights reserved. Biblocus is a registered trademark. This program is copyright 2025 by Timothy Klingerman. God bless all of you.